Hello everyone, welcome back to the AWS studio here at Mobile World Congress Barcelona. My name is Robbie Belson and I'm joined by fantastic panelists from DXC and Telenor. And we're going to talk a little bit today about how telcos can overcome technical debt through strong cloud partners and SIs. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Start with a round of introductions. Over to you, Diego.
It's Diego McKee, DXC Technology, heading the go-to-market activities for DXC in Europe towards the TMT industry.
So I'm Dan with Telenor Sweden, working in the IT department. So right now I'm heading the strategy and enablement parts of the IT. That would include things like enterprise architecture, but also cloud transformation and cloud in general.
Mm-hmm. Juergen Donnerstag is my name. I'm a technical strategy consultant, focusing on the telecommunications industry and especially applications. So everything around solutioning, helping our clients with tech debt and migrating to the cloud is my primary topic.
Wonderful. I'm excited to delve deeper with each and every one of you. Let's start with setting the scene here. Overcoming technical debt really stems from this notion of transformation pressure. We heard a lot about that last year, and that's a topic that remains incredibly pervasive yet again this year. Diego, as you think about what you're hearing from your clients, what are they telling you?
Well, I think we come from a phase where adoption was the focus. So executives were looking into the cloud adoption saying, why adoption is only 2%, 5%? We need to increase cloud adoption. So it was more an emphasis on cutting IT costs and actually doing what the industry is doing, which is adopting cloud. Now, what I'm hearing now from executives is a change. Executives are looking after the business case. And with that, I mean the financials of the moving to the cloud. So the value of it. Looking into, does that make sense to move exactly this app to the cloud from a financial perspective as well? So what gains can we then get from that? And according to our view in DXC, we see that by 2030, cloud will have generated about between 6 to 8 percentage points higher EBITDAs for the companies doing that. And we're not alone thinking that. I've seen other companies, very renowned companies, looking at this and also saying that by 2030 we will see an increase in EBITDA as a result of moving to the cloud, but not just for the sake of moving to the cloud, but doing a very succinct analysis on value creation to execute that.
6 to 8% increase in EBITDA.
6 to 8 percentage points. So the industry now, the EBITDA in the industry right now in the world is around 30% EBITDA. So cloud movements alone can generate between 6 to 8 percentage points up.
Wow. Wow. Maybe from your perspective, Dan, does what Diego just mentioned align with some of the pain points that you've been observing within your business?
Well, definitely. Though we are, I can say that there is a lot of expectation on coming down on cost whilst moving to the cloud. And we are struggling a bit with actually getting that to happen. Yeah. Though we can see the positive benefit, the positive side of things whilst moving to the cloud, which is like we're having a lot better stability in the systems. And we are, obviously, we're getting the resilience. And you could definitely see a great increase when it comes to agility. So like hitting the market faster with the products that we develop and so on. So there is a lot of benefits coming out, but we are struggling on the cost side, actually getting the cost down behind the when we're actually going into the cloud.
So transformation pressures, we've defined it here as a need for resilience, lower TCO, and an opportunity to drive margin. So Juergen, from your perspective, technically speaking, when you're working with customers and partners, what's that first step in the evaluation journey of the cloud? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so tech debt for us is currently a hot topic. Many of the application landscapes have been growing over the last 20 years. We see quite a number of applications that were developed like 20 years ago and running on servers which were up to date back then, like HPUX, IIX, Solaris, etc. Right? But this application, they have been nurtured and maintained over years, so they're perfectly fulfilling client needs. So they're strategically important for telco operators like customer care and billing systems, right? They play a really major part. And when you want to migrate such an application, or when you think about what to strategically do with such an application, you typically have multiple choices. You can think about, do I rebuild it from scratch? Do I install a new commercial product maybe? Or like the story that I'm talking about here is where we took an existing application where the operator said that application is perfectly doing what we want, all right, but it's not fit from the infrastructure point of view. So it was running on HPUX on 140 servers in production. But HPUX is basically dead, right? So there were no updates on the operating systems. We hardly got spare parts on the second-hand market for it. So something had to be done, right? And what we did is we took this application, 3 million lines of codes, and basically replaced what I tend to call the platform components, so not the business functionality. They remained untouched. But the whole underlying platform, we modernized it and migrated the application from HPUX to AWS. And we are seeing exactly what Dan just mentioned, increased performance, increased resilience, and lower costs, by the way, because it's not a one-to-one migration like physical to virtual or something, right? Because where the benefits are limited, as we all know, right? But in this case, we modernized the underlying platform to run on Kubernetes and leverage all the functionality and services that AWS provides to scale up and down. Right. So, and that is how we get the cost savings that actually everybody is looking for. So now we have an application that is perfect for the customers. They love it, they use it. No change in processes, right? That's good for all the business users, and it's good for the IT department because now they have a customer care and billing system that is perfectly fine and modernized.
Right. I mean, it's a great example of what you just mentioned. Actually, jump in, Dan. Jump in.
Yeah. So just want to mention some more stuff on the cost side.
Okay.
I mean, what's happening when we're going from the on-premise infrastructure into the cloud is that we are obviously getting more opportunities as well.
Yes.
And those opportunities we want to leverage also. And that means in the end sometimes increasing the cost. But that also then means that we can get even faster, we can have even better stability, and we can meet the customer demands even better. Though sometimes, and of course, overall, we are also coming down on the cost side.
Faster is an important point, if I may, right? Because with this change of the underlying platform, we also introduce DevOps, right? So running now on Kubernetes, we basically can introduce new business features every day or 10 times a day.
Right.
Very different compared to previously, and that brings speed, and actually business loves that.
Right. I want to come back to the replatforming journey here in a second. Kubernetes, you talked about auto-scaling, but Diego, from your perspective, I know there's a difference in terms of how we look at B2B and B2C. Is that relevant in the discussion here?
Yeah, it is, because there are some considerations. What we see, at least in the telco industry, is that companies are starting with the B2C side of the house. You know, we've got a matrix for mainly the telcos are looking into the market in a matrix where you've got B2C, B2C on one dimension, and then on the other dimension you've got fixed and mobile. Well, we're moving back out from that, but it's still the same when it comes to IT. So you've got different towers, different stacks in these different quadrants of this matrix, and many companies are starting with the B2C side of the house. B2C mobile is very often also the start, because that makes sense, that brings the volume, that is future-proof, and then they continue evaluating other parts of the house. B2B fixed is, in my opinion, the most complex side of the house, because it's very configured to the needs of big companies, corporations that have very many different sites across borders, and then, I mean, there is a lot of bespoke configuration for different corporations. So there is a difference between B2B and B2C while considering moving to the cloud. I would like to point out another thing. There is another difference in B2C and B2B, because we are looking very much at the cost side of the movement to the cloud, because that is an IT efficiency movement, moving to the cloud, an obvious IT efficiency movement. But the real, not yet seen, but hoping upside for the cloud is the revenue generating side of the house, because by moving the applications to the cloud, you move into an environment that can actually not only changed the speed on the way you're doing business, the way just Juergen said. Not only that, in addition to that, you can also think about unimaginable things, so things that you couldn't do before because of the constraints of your platforms and your hardware. You can then move into a new ecosystem of opportunities that can actually increase your revenue, and that really does the work for the business case. I'm talking about things that brings IoT on the table and brings AI on the table and generative AI on the table, of course, because then you have access to a very dynamic way of managing capacity and storage capacity in your around your applications. That it is still unseen, and I think we will be seeing this very quickly.
I think that's a fantastic point. You talk about the opportunity to reduce undifferentiated heavy lifting of managing infrastructure, so you can spend more time building those applications, releasing the features, Juergen, that you mentioned, and then start to imagine new consumer experiences that you never even thought was possible, including, and of course not limited to, Gen AI. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But going back to you, Juergen, you started to hint at some of the specific benefits that AWS has introduced for your cloud transformation journey. We talked auto-scaling, we talked about Kubernetes native approach. Any other specific features or domains that caught your eye or surprised you?
Yeah, I was especially pleased by the engagement and support from AWS. So it was really easy to engage with your experts and get the people on board which we needed. Right? We did the architecture reviews, but also on very specific questions, we got really good support helping us to properly design the future of this application. Because as I mentioned, it's not a like one-to-one replacement. And when I say platform, I don't mean like the operating system. It's like the platform of the application. Every application has some sort of platform underneath, and this is what we replaced. And there we leveraged quite a bit AWS and the expertise from AWS, helping us with how to exactly use specific services from AWS, be it the Kubernetes cluster, be it load balancing, be it the connectivity to the on-premise applications, because that's always a hot topic as well.
Based on what Juergen mentioned, Dan, from your perspective, how does that align with what you value most in cloud partners?
Well, I can just say that I agree with Juergen first, and I mean the collaboration that we have ongoing in Telenor Sweden with Amazon and AWS is awesome. So we are really getting the help when we need it, and I mean we are struggling because we don't have the knowledge to that extent ourselves. So I mean it's super great. We're also getting a lot of help from DXC in this area, so which is essential for us to succeed in this.
I want to talk a little bit more about that collaboration with DXC. What do you value most in not only bringing cloud partners to the table, but also SIs?
Well, I mean, a while back we tried to change things up quite a lot, trying to push things into our organization a lot more, trying to hold all the competencies ourselves and so on. But obviously we see that that might not be the right path going forwards. We need a lot more partnerships. We need a lot more help with different vendors to actually succeed in what we need to do.
I'd like to add something to that.
Yeah, please.
So I think that the mix of skills between a hyperscaler like AWS and DXC is, I mean, obviously complementary.
Exactly.
It's because we can't do the work without each other. So DXC will look after, I mean, let's go back to the business case, right? The business case, as everybody knows, has a cost part and a revenue part, right? So if you go to an executive today with an solely IT story and want to move that to the cloud, you might meet some resistance, as I said, because executives are looking after better business cases, and you can't justify those only looking at the IT cost. You need to provide more, much more. Now, how do you do that? Then you need DXC, because DXC, by the experience we have with so many clients, we can actually guide our clients into looking or finding or uncovering opportunities that you, in your world as a client, don't see, but we can bring to the table, right? And that combined to the knowledge of all the tools available and the opportunities available in the AWS ecosystem, that provides a magic mix for the clients.
And for this reason, we expanded our relationship with AWS actually in December, expanding it also by educating more DXC people, getting them AWS certified.
Correct.
Also, what we're also now doing is we jointly, AWS and DXC together, do workshops with customers rather than each other, right? Talking about their own topic. We are now combining both, and customers really seem to like this.
Well, we really appreciate that ongoing collaboration. Of course, training and certification is such an important part of a customer and an overall cloud transformation journey. If we think ahead a little bit, again, today's theme is really all about creating that long-term sustained value through migrations. Diego, from your perspective, GenAI is that theme of the year, if you will, 2024. As you think about creating value, GenAI has got to be top of mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, I'm really impressed, amazed by the amount of Gen AI focusing the MWC. It reminds me from my story, somebody in Oslo told me once, the day you need to sell your shares is when the taxi driver starts talking about buying that share. That's the day you need to sell it, right? So then, that was a joke, of course. But now everybody's talking about Gen AI. Maybe it's too late already, right? So that was the metaphor. No. So look, I think that my personal perspective on generative AI is that it reminds me of the business process reengineering that everybody went through 30 years ago and did lots of money with, because it changed the way we worked, right? When ERP systems were part of the choices on IT that companies could do, then they needed to rethink the way they did their processes, and that created a wealth of business for many companies. Now we are seeing the same. Generative AI is bringing on the table another way of doing the work, because the same task can be done in what we call conversational mode. So instead of opening an Excel sheet or a PowerPoint and doing your work, or opening a system, whatever, you will solve the same task asking questions to an avatar, for example, or you do it in another way. That changes the task. That changes the way you solve the task. Right. And I think that we've just seen the beginning. We will be, I mean, you can imagine doing a strategy workshop with an avatar in the room. Right? It's not the same, because every time you have a question, it's not, you don't use anymore the parking slot. Well, put that question on the wall, the parking slot, will the consultant tell you? No, not anymore. You've got the avatar. Ask, what do you think about? So I'm just simplifying a lot, right? But I think we will see a change in the way we solve tasks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's certainly an extreme example, but a very practical one, since we're talking about tech debt, right? So we are also providing application assessments, landscape assessments, and we have collected this information from lots of customers on an AWS platform, and now we are using AI, so not Gen AI, but AI to analyze the data and to provide strategies and roadmaps for customers like Telenor, to help them to advise them and to help them on structuring their journey to the cloud. So that's a very practical approach on where we are using AI.
We talked a lot about that last year. Data has gravity, and as that cloud transformation really brings in that data, the opportunity for analysis, AI, Gen AI, or otherwise, just becomes so much simpler. So to close things out, Dan, I want to give you the final word. As you think about Telenor's overall cloud transformation journey, what are you looking forward to most?
I'm looking forward to us actually being able to say that we are truly cloud native, because that hasn't happened yet, but we are really getting there. So it will happen in the coming years, I would say. I would hope that fewer years, but when we are in that situation, that would enable us to do so much more and so much faster.
Well, we look forward to supporting you throughout the journey. To the DXC team, thank you for joining us, and hope to see you back next year in Barcelona.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.